see what questions we have, and then see if you can pinpoint a good one. And then I'm gonna ask the students to tell me the question and also their name and what school they go to. So we can say so-and-so has a question. So-and-so from blank school asks blank, and you can be the one to ask the question.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, I'll ask on behalf of the student, and luckily their name pops up in Zoom. So the school, I'll try and say like, you know, Brandon from XYZ school had a question. He asks blank.
Yeah, exactly. And then Hamilton will answer it. And I think the goal here for timing purposes, Hamilton, like we'll probably get our conversation going around 12:45, and we'll go until about 1:10, and then, or 1:08-ish. And then the last thing I'm going to show them is an effective way to send a thank you message to somebody that they met, showing an effective follow-up email about like how much they enjoyed meeting that person. Let me ask you a quick question, Hamilton. If students wanted to reach out to you and say it was nice to meet you, how would you want them to do it? Would you want them to email you, or how do you want that message to come through?
They could email me. That's fine.
Okay. So, and your email is hamilton@hamiltonperkins.com. Is that right?
Yeah, that's a good email. They can send it there.
Okay. VJ, can you keep that in your notes, and at the very end, say if you want to write to Hamilton, he said you could send him a thank you note this way. And we're going to give teachers who are interested that sample message that they can use with the students afterwards. So we're basically taking them through the entire experience of a virtual Q&A with somebody while actually doing one too. So that's the setup here. So we're going to save that little email discussion to the very end, and then do a little more like lead gen stuff, and then wrap around 1:15. So I would say we'd be talking, you, me, and the students for about 20 to 25 minutes.
Sounds good. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah. So
Hamilton, the only thing I could see students asking just that you might want to be prepared for is like, hey, are you hiring right now? Or what do you recommend? You know, just so I'm sure they'll ask.
Understood. Yeah.
You can get some street team kids in California. Those would be a bunch of kids from California here, probably. And also like Northern Virginia. I do want to point out, Hamilton, because I saw a bunch of kids signed up and a teacher from Norfolk Public Schools too. So maybe they're at Granby or something. So it's a mixed bag here, but I expect 100-ish people to be here. 100, 120 would be my guess, 130, something like that. Typically we get like half of the registrants show up live. But then a lot of teachers share this after the fact because we send the recording.
And they might be sharing it in their classroom with their 30.
That's the thing too. It's a little misleading because you can have one teacher as a registrant and they're sharing it with like 50 kids through their own computer screen. So it's actually far more than the number of participants that you see. It could be hundreds more because they're just using it as a place to share it out. So it's a lot of eyeballs for sure. So I think I'm going to turn on the broadcast in like 5 minutes and let people trickle in, and we'll just have a conversation, ask them where they're from, and then we'll get going at 12:30. And cool. Which samples do you want to share? Which ones do you want to grab from behind you?
Do you need me to pull them, or do you want to?
It'd be cool if you could just, when you're talking about it, like hold it up to the camera, talk about the product, and let them like see it up a little closer than where it is now. At that time, don't need to do it right now, but like be ready to grab something and, let them put it up to the lens, let them really see, let them see the inside with the billboard material. And yeah, exactly. I mean, it's cool. It's such cool stuff. And I think these kids are going to love it.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Hamilton, are you based out in California?
No, he's here.
I'm in Virginia. I'm right in.
Oh, nice.
What about you? Where are you? You're in.
Yeah, no, I'm here in Virginia Beach as well. I'm a Virginia Beach guy. I went to PA, and then I lived in Silicon Valley, San Francisco for a number of years after college.
Fantastic. And do you work at Rubin Communications?
I do, yes.
Well, no. So he's working for my business,
Yeah.
Yeah, Rubin Communications is like the family PR biz, and now he's working for me for my business.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. So
it's actually funny because I hit Danny up because we both went to UVA. I hit him up cold on LinkedIn because I like one of his blog posts. And then we started to get to know each other, figure out what each other was about. And then that led to a pretty productive business relationship.
Danny treating you good?
Trying to. He said, am I treating you good, BJ?
Oh, yeah, he is, man. He's awesome. I don't know if I'm treating him good, but you know, we're working through it. It's fun to, you know, to help kids be able to communicate better, man.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Nobody hustles like Hamilton. This dude gets after it. We've been friends a long time. We've shared war stories a long time. He was my first go-to with
awesome.
this series. Hamilton, the next one I'm doing, I think you'll like this topic. I got a buddy from college who is a content editor for Hearst Publications, which they do Oprah, Elle, Cosmo, all these Delish, all these big brands. And he does like brand partnerships. So like some food company or somebody will do some sort of like sponsored content promotion, like with Oprah.com, and he'll like manage that. So he's going to be the guest in 2 weeks. So he's working at a high level in New York, in Manhattan.
Is he working at an agency or does he do it independently?
No, he works for Hearst. Hearst is like the parent company for all the magazines.
Oh yeah, no, I'm super familiar with Hearst.
Yeah, they're huge. Yeah. And I didn't even realize he was doing that until he told me. I'm looking for guests. Who do you suggest? He's like, what about me? I'm like, what do you do now? I had no idea. I don't even. It's like guys don't talk about that stuff. We just talk about sports.
Yeah. It's like, wait, you're president of what? Oh, that's cool.
Right. I'm like, you're working with Oprah magazines? I mean, because, you know, I got to think of this on a national scale. Like, what names can I drop that anybody around the country would react to? 100%. And so when he said Oprah and Elle and Cosmo, I'm like, oh, done deal.
No, that's fantastic, man. Good stuff.
Yeah. So if you ever have ideas for like cool people who are like cool businesses or working for like name brands, or we're going to try and do these every 2 weeks, at least through the fall, and then figure out after the calendar year, but want to do like a virtual internships series, and you're the first one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I've got the podcast. We're about 100 episodes.
Oh yeah.
Now, and
let me know.
We've had a bunch of guests, yourself included, and we also have, you know, I mean, it all depends on who you want.
You talk to a ton of people. Yeah, if anybody really sticks out to you that you think you really got to get on the level, like what would a high school marketing teacher be like? Hell yeah, you know, or like what would a 15-year-old listen to for 20 minutes? Like that's the level we got to be on. So if somebody comes to mind, just text me.
For sure. Hey, I'm going to use the restroom really quickly before we get
started. Go ahead.
That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
And Danny, just for us, I think everything with Marcia looks like it's going well. I should be on set or on everything's going according to plan on that one.
Awesome. Hey, one thing, just generally day in, day out, like that email exchange with Smart Brief when that Jillian lady wrote back, make sure you always close the loop on these things.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, make sure that you get, even if it's just like a thanks a lot, we'll be in touch. Like always, like our company, we're teaching these skills.
Yeah, that's
so
right.
we have to act it. We have to walk the walk. So just make sure that every loop is closed with whatever discussion you're in. We should always be the last person in that chain.
Got it.
Yep.
Thank you for the reminder. Right. That's helpful.
Sure. Even if it's just, you know, it's like a little like, yep, got it, or thanks. I'm all about like being the last one so that they always know that we saw everything that they said.
Yep.
Okay. All right, let's turn this on and he'll pop in back in a minute. Let's turn it on, let folks trickle in here.
Yeah, 1 second, just
come on in, everybody. Hello. Good afternoon, good morning. Welcome, welcome. Come on into the chat. Change it to all panelists and attendees. Let us know where you're watching from and where you're in school. Hello, Isabella. Change your settings, everybody, to all panelists and attendees. Isabella, where are you from? Norfolk. Which school? Very nice. We are in Virginia Beach. How about that?
Yeah,
right
I
up
went
the
to
road.
Princess Anne High School. Danny went to Kempsville.
Kempsville and Princess Anne. And here's our special guest, which we'll hear from him plenty in a little bit, but here's Hamilton Perkins. Hamilton, you left for a moment, and when you left, we went live.
Okay, fantastic.
So everybody's starting to trickle in, and we're just getting to know each other. So this is VJ on the Rubin team. I'm Danny. And this is Hamilton from Hamilton Perkins Collection. And for those of you who just joined us, hop into the chat like Isabella did. Tell us where you are watching from, what school you go to, or if you're a teacher, what you teach. Let's say hello in the chat, get to know each other. Always nice to start a few minutes ahead of time. And in the webinar world, they call it a pre-party. I know this is not really a party, and we're all dressed way too nice for a party, but you know. Hi, Paula, Cedar Hill, Texas. Great. So you're in Ms. Burnham's class. Excellent. Hi, Renee. I'm glad you're here. Irvine, California. Come on in, everybody. Tell us, are you still learning from home? Are you still teaching from home? Are you a hybrid situation? What's going on in your... She said, everyone looks so nice and I'm in PJs. Don't tell your teacher you're watching this in PJs. And maybe now she's gonna know. Yeah. So what's going on? Is everybody learning from home? Are you learning sometimes in school? What's the situation now? We're into October. What's going on? Hey, Bree. Thanks for being here too. Cedar Hill Collegiate High School. Learning from home. Yeah, we know because you're in our neck of the woods. We know Norfolk Public Schools is virtual. Virginia Beach. So here's an interesting situation. In Virginia Beach Public Schools, where we are, they have allowed only the 9th graders to go back in the building as of today. So I have a cousin who's a freshman in high school, and he is now back in his high school building as a freshman, and he's the only grade in the whole building. Think about going to high school as a freshman, and it's such a nervous process because everyone's going to be there and you're the youngest one. And he's the only one. And it's only half of the 9th grade, so they have lots of room to spread out. So he's in his first day of high school with only half of his class, and he's the only class in the building. Anybody else out there have a similar situation, letting students slowly back in the building? Hi, Stephanie. Given the opportunity to choose whether to go to school or do online learning. Okay. There's so many unique situations out there. This is just one that I know of locally with a family member. But what an unusual first day of high school, right? We all, for the teachers here, we all know first day of high school, you know, it's a big deal. And it's very different right now. Come on in, everybody. Say hello in the chat. Hamilton, give us a little background of like the room you're in and what's behind you, and kind of tease up what you're going to show us a little bit. And you're muted.
All right. Yeah. So I'm Hamilton Perkins. I'm the founder of Hamilton Perkins Collection. We make bags and accessories from recycled materials. We use recycled plastic, pineapple leaf fiber, billboard, and lots of other materials. We've been mentioned in Forbes, Fast Company, and the Washington Post. We've worked on multiple Fortune 500 client projects, including HP, Dow Chemical, Nordstrom, TJ Maxx. We're based here in Virginia, and currently I'm in my apartment. I am in my home office, and glad to be here today.
Awesome. And hi, Karen from Taft Union. Thank you for being here, Karen. Did you bring any students with you? Any students joining you today? I hope, yeah. I guess you don't know till you see them pop in here. Thanks, Hamilton. Yeah, we're really excited to see your products, and I've known you a long time, and I appreciate as much as anybody the journey, the climb, and hopefully you can share a little bit of that with students too, about what it really takes to build something from nothing. Not that everybody has to go out there and be an entrepreneur, but if you choose to do that, you have to know what you're signing up for, right? I mean, you just have to, it's not going to be handed to you, and it's not going to happen quickly. And I mean, if you could try to even quantify for me, how many people have you reached out to and sort of pitched your products? Not ones that you've successfully sold to, just ones you've pitched. What thousands number would you put on that right now after all the years and all the pitches and all the outreach and the cold calls? What number would you say you're at right now?
Well, that's a good question, Danny, and thank you again for having me here. I'd say when we first got the business rolling, I set somewhat of a system for myself on outreach as personal outreach. So, that included media, blogs, and influencers. And, my thing was, what could I do? I shadowed around a couple of companies that were, further ahead, and I kind of rotated through their like media department or their, kind of influencer departments. And they kind of would tell me, yeah, we're doing like, 30 outreach a day or like 40 outreach a day. And so I'm just in my head, I'm like, if they're at scale and that's what they're doing, then that means I got to do double that, or I got to do triple that. So, I was setting a goal of like 100 outreach for myself in those early months. And that was like email, personalized outreach, direct messages on Instagram, personalized outreach, cold calls. So, picking up the phone, calling a buyer, sending, videos to prospects, and, and that's kind of, it was a conversion rate, to your point. It's not like you're going to see like results overnight, but, I was able to cut through it and, land some, nice partnerships, and, that kind of turned itself into a referral mechanism. And then, over time, I started bringing content into the picture and kind of working with partners that could help us create pictures, videos, written words.
Yep. I just want to real quick, because Brooke Bell asked the question. No, Brooke, we haven't started yet. It's just a little pre-party. We're just chatting before 12:30. So your students haven't missed anything. We're just letting people come on in. You're welcome. So for those of you who joined us while he was talking, make sure you say hello in the chat, introduce yourself, whether you're a teacher or a student. Tell us where you're in school or where you're teaching. If you're home right now or if you're in the building, let us know what's going on. We will get started at 12:30 Eastern time, so nobody's missed anything. Don't worry. Thank you for that, Hamilton. Yeah, I mean, you talk about 100 people a day, and you think about how many you put out there, how many didn't go anywhere. But out of all of that, you were able to land major companies, major brands, and you never know which one's going to be the one. You just got to, as they say, you cast a wide net, and you just don't quite know how it's going to shake out. Hi, Lisa Marie from Delaware, Ohio. Awesome. So glad you're here. And it's a bit of a numbers game, right? You just have to be willing to every day get out of bed and do this, not always knowing never really knowing how it's going to go, right? You just have to put faith in yourself. Is that what you'd say?
Yeah, 100%. I think from, self-awareness being, top of the list, knowing what you want out of an experience, starting with that, making a decision. So make the decision, commit to the decision, execute on the decision. If you know you want to be in a particular job in, 5 years, and there's a certain experience level that you have to take to get there, that takes a certain amount of discipline and even systems daily, to get there. And, even today, when I don't have to make the outreach that I do, I still, I kind of commit to the process. And, I still, I'm still very analytical and, metrics driven with all that we do. And, because, it's really just getting you have to be known. If you're not known, or if, people don't know, like, and trust you, then it's hard to do business with you. So, that's why we started making content. That's why we opened the physical store. That's why we started a podcast. That's why, we have an email list and a text messaging list. You know, communication is very central to what we do, and you know, then we can sort of introduce the products that we make to customers.
Excellent, thank you. And we're going to get into much more of this after once the webinar begins. Again, for everybody, I want to say a special welcome to several coming through the chat. I saw Richmond Hill, Georgia entrepreneurship class. Hello. I saw Charlotte. Raise your hand if you're here from Charlotte, North Carolina. We saw a lot of Charlotte people coming through the registration. What about Norfolk, Virginia, Norfolk Public Schools? Give me a show of hands. Norfolk. We saw a bunch of Norfolk folks. Glad you're here. I saw it's really great to see so many people that we've met over the months and years or who are brand new. If you're new here, if you are new to our webinars, can you give me a show of hands? If you're a teacher, go to the chat and tell me if you're a new teacher, this is your first time at one of our webinars. Brooke is a first timer, excellent. We always have some new people and we often have a lot of returnees, which is great. And those of you who have been, who's been with us since the pandemic began? We started these webinars in March. Who's been with us since March? I know there's some of you who have been here a long time and we're really grateful for that. Marlo is here. Make sure everybody set your settings to all panelists and attendees. Okay, so we can all see. Stephanie Burnham's been here since March. So we have people who've been here with months and months and people who are brand new, and that's great. We want to keep adding to our community. And I want you to know that we're going to continue to do these virtual internship sessions throughout the fall. We have another one lined up I'll tell you about in just a minute. Raise your hand if you like this idea of connecting students with professionals through webinars. Raise your hand if you're having trouble sending students to, on-site facilities for internships or site tours right now. Who's having trouble with that around the country? So we're trying to help fill that gap. A lot of hands going up right now because we know that it's a huge challenge. And we're going to do what we can to help you, connect you with the highest quality people we can find. And we got a great one today and a great one coming up later in October, which I'm excited to share with you. So you can expect more of this from us as we roll into the fall, because who knows when we're going to be back a normal school week, right? I mean, anywhere we live in the country, even in the best of circumstances, it's still very challenging and nobody really knows. So we're going to just keep it going with what we do. Right, Katie says, what will be normal? That's a great question. And make sure Katie and everybody else, all panelists and attendees, so we can all see what you're saying. Hey, Tracy from Pete's, Colorado. Thank you for being here. Student from Patriot High School, Bristow, Virginia. You're welcome. Nicholas Ward, very much. All right, well, it's 12:30. Let me see that little chat real quick before we dive in. From Yvonne, work with post-grad special education, looking for ways for the students to make something work from school when they come back. Great, well, I hope this is helpful to you. All right, so let's get started. We got a lot to do today. I wanna dive right in, excuse me. And Hamilton and VJ, first of all, I'm Danny Rubin, the founder of our company, which is Rubin. We provide an online curriculum for business communication skills. And this is our Chief Strategy Officer, VJ, and our special guest, Hamilton Perkins. I'm going to kindly ask these gentlemen to turn off their videos for just a minute so we can get through some housekeeping, and we'll bring Hamilton back. And then we'll do our conversation. All right, so welcome everybody, those who are new, those who are returning. As I said, I'm Danny Rubin. I'm talking to you from Virginia Beach, Virginia. I know a lot of you have been here before. But those of you who are new, we always have some great stuff to pass out at the beginning. So let's get right to that. Okay, today we're talking about virtual internships. We are teaching students how to hold conversations with people in industry from wherever they might be, at home, at school, somewhere in between. So we're going to take students through an experience today where they get to ask questions to a professional, but we're also going to be learning about the process along the way. Okay, so before we learn about the process, I want to first share what we always like to do. Let me get my chat going again so I can see everybody. One thing we put together that I hope you'll all like, for the teachers, okay? We've put together a set of guides for virtual internships, learning how to engage with employers and professionals from a distance. We've put together a document with learning how to request a Q&A with a professional, like via email, how to prepare for the Q&A or a virtual site tour of a business, how to hold that Q&A with a professional, how to write a thank you email afterwards, and even how to describe a virtual internship experience on your resume or cover letter. So we put this together for those teachers who are interested. And I'll tell you just a minute how to get it. Okay, so just hang tight 1 sec, and I'll explain the brief instruction. We've also, if you haven't received this yet, I know many of you, we've given this out over the months, but raise your hand if, sorry students, I know you're here. Raise your hand if your students tend to write emails like they're texting. The hands go up. Students, if you're paying attention, what we want to teach and what we want you to learn is how to write effective messages so that you're not going to be held back by the quality of your writing. So we've also put together this unit for free on how to write an effective email. I'll give you a second to scan your eye down the page for the teachers. Okay, so we're teaching the various parts of an email, how to put an email together. And when students complete the unit, they can earn a digital badge. How many of you give out digital badges or credentials to your students? Show of hands, how many of you give out credentials? So we are another credential. So if you would like our virtual internship guides and the email etiquette unit, if you don't have it yet, here's all you have to do. Go to the chat right now, type the word interested and your email address. Okay, and what we like to do for the new people, this is just for teachers, not students. For the new people, we love to do a 5-minute phone call in the coming days to help get to know you better and to help you make sense of this material within your own program. Okay, so it's a quick, how you doing? Because we can't talk to each other like we like to do. We're not going to conferences. We're not standing at an exhibit booth. We can't meet people like we like to do. So we have a quick call, give out the resources, talk about it, you're on your way. So for those of you who are interested, thank you for those who are already doing it. We will be in touch in the coming days. We'll put you on the calendar for just a few minutes if you're new to our community. And we'll have a quick call either tomorrow or early next week in your time zone, of course. Okay. So feel free to keep the interesteds coming. We'll move on to the next thing, but feel free to keep sharing and we'll talk about it again towards the end. Now, our next webinar, super excited. Here we go. First of all, who here is a business or marketing teacher? Now, this is for anybody, but especially for business and marketing. Okay. And Renee, I love your comment. If you could switch your setting to all panelists and attendees and do it again, that'd be awesome. Because only we can see it right now. All right, here we go. Our next virtual internship, climb on the bus. We are exploring the world of digital marketing. It'll be Thursday, October 22nd, 12:30 Eastern. And our guest is Steve Schiff. He is a digital content editor for magazines that include Oprah, Elle, Cosmo, Delish, Men's Health, Prevention Magazine, Country Living. Raise your hand if you read any of those magazines or see them in the grocery store. So he puts together really cool, cutting edge digital content for the websites for these magazines. And he's going to show us how he does his job. So he's working at the highest levels. He's in Manhattan, national magazines, national brand sponsors. This is as cool as it gets. So for the DECA students, the FBLA, really anybody who has an interest in just how the big stuff comes together, please join us on the 22nd. So we will put out the link to the registration for that shortly, but I want you to mark it on your calendar now. Tell the other teachers in the building, we want you to be there. All right, now, for those who attend today, everybody who's here live, thank you for being here live. And for the students who are watching, hello to the students who are watching through their teacher's computer, okay? We are going to give you a certificate, teachers and students. Raise your hand if you've already used or put to use or showed off a certificate from a previous webinar we've done. Who has already gotten the certificate? So we're gonna hand out a certificate for today. Teachers can use it for their own continuing ed. Students can use it in their portfolios. Okay. So we're gonna pass that out too. So look for that in your email probably tomorrow. All right. Now, what are we gonna do today? We're gonna talk just briefly about how to prep for a Q&A, and then we're gonna bring back in our guest. Okay. So let me share my screen another way. I want to take just a minute and explain. Let me get my chat going again. Okay. So for those who are new, it's important you understand. And for those who have heard this before, just bear with me. But it's really important that everyone knows where this instruction comes from, especially the new people. So our company provides a curriculum called Emerge. And it's an online curriculum that teaches practical communication skills like what we're doing today. How many teachers in the chat today are using Emerge right now? I know we have a handful of teachers using it. We work with Canvas and Schoology and various LMS to embed our content in, or Google Classroom, to embed our content so you can teach students practical skills like email writing right from where you're already teaching. Okay, so we cover 3 different key areas: employability skills, entrepreneurship skills, and leadership skills. But our special focus is writing and speaking, because we know that how we write and how we speak dictates our opportunities. Thank you, Paige, for being here and using our material. I know we just spoke last week about what you're doing with Emerge. So we teach students practical skills across these 3 areas, and we offer digital badges, like I mentioned. We also have some content designed for middle school. Any middle school teachers here? We have special material for middle school, and then lots and lots of content for students to do at the high school level or college. Okay, and we cover these. I'll just show you the topics quickly, then we'll get into the webinar. We cover email etiquette, learning how to write emails, life skills like how to sign your name in cursive. Raise your hand if you believe cursive writing is a lost art. Well, we teach that in our program. We teach how to write our own name. We teach phone and video etiquette, like how to leave voicemails and how to hold Zoom conversations or Google Meets or whatever, Microsoft Teams, whatever you're on. Yvonne says, bring cursive back. We're trying, Yvonne. We're going to do our best. We teach networking emails, resume writing, storytelling cover letters. Many of you have heard us talk about storytelling cover letters. We can explain it further after the webinar for those who are not familiar, but it's a great strategy to stand out from the pack. Internship and job outreach emails, and learning how to communicate through virtual internship experiences like today. LinkedIn profile creation, job interview prep. How many folks here, I always like to ask, how many people here are marketing teachers or CTSO advisors? Who here is a DECA advisor or HOSA or FBLA or Skills USA, or tell me what you're advising. We teach students how to promote projects, how to write well for sales, write website pages, write student e-portfolios, write public relations outreach, write fundraising pitches. We also cover leadership skills, writing as a manager or a leader on the team, writing skills to customers and clients, project management correspondence, public speaking exercises, writing reports and summaries of your work to your boss, and activities for student leaders, students who are in leadership roles, learning to be a good writer and speaker in those different capacities. So we cover a variety of skills that you can take little by little and add into your LMS so students leave your doors knowing how to write and speak and conduct themselves like a young adult. And that's why we call ourselves Emerge. Okay, so what I want you to do while I'm getting set up for our Q&A with Hamilton, how many of you prepared some questions for today? And actually, I was remiss. VJ, if you still have it available, throw in that worksheet link. I was remiss. And also, a few minutes later, throw in the flyer for the next webinar. This is a worksheet. How many of you put out or teachers grabbed this worksheet from us to help guide the session? I apologize, I should have thrown it in a few minutes ago. But I'm gonna ask the questions out loud anyway, so it's not a big deal if you don't have it. But we put together a worksheet prior to that students can use to guide themselves through. So the first thing we're gonna cover, thank you, Elizabeth, very much for using the worksheets. I'm so glad. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about how to prepare to meet a business professional. Okay, before the conversation happens, how many people know that preparation is key to success? Raise your hand if you know that preparing for the moment is just as important, if not more important, than the moment itself. So here's what we're gonna do. A lot of hands going up. I'm glad you agree with that. Oh, Brooke Bell said, our students did a short intro presentation on Hamilton and his website to teach the other classmates about what we'd be learning today. That's amazing. And please, everybody, change your settings to all panelists and attendees. Brooke, that's so cool. I want everyone to see that. So please change your settings and paste that again. All right, so prior to, I provided several times links to Hamilton's website. All right, And actually, let me go back to the jump because I don't want to give it away. Now, what I want you all to do, and you may have already done this, and we're going to do it together so you learn together. But for future opportunities, I want you to get this in your head. So when you're going to learn about somebody before the conversation, because it's important that they know that you've done your homework on them. It makes them like you more because you've done your homework. This is Hamilton Perkins' awesome website with his super cool products that he's about to show us. Now, let me ask the group, look at the screen right now. Let's say that we learned about his products. We saw the products, we saw the pricing, But let's say we want to learn about the company's latest achievement, something new, something fresh. What would you click on what you're seeing right now? What would you click on to learn about the latest and greatest going on with Hamilton Perkins collection? Someone type in the chat, what link would you click on from what you're seeing right now? So Julia and Isabella said about. Now that is often a page that doesn't always change, okay? The about page, you can write it one time and not touch it for several years. I see it coming through now. Annetta says it, Christian says it, blog, okay? This is what I want you to think about for future interviews, when you're applying to colleges, anytime you're about to sit down for an interview, I want you to go to that place, the website for that organization, and I want you to go to a page like blog or a page like press releases or latest news. This is the good stuff. Raise your hand if you went to this page on Hamilton's site and saw this article about this really cool collaboration he did with the New York City Department of Sanitation providing recyclable masks. Incredible, okay? So what we want to do is show up to that conversation already having a question prepared about something we read on his blog. Because what's the date? Somebody tell me, what date do you see? When was this written? Put it in the chat. Now that's pretty recent, right? That's about a month ago. Now, Hamilton would probably say he wrote his about page probably a few years ago, but this is a month old. This is as fresh as it gets. This is the latest, greatest thing he's doing. So if you go to him and you bring up this news story, he's going to find you so much more interesting because you know a little bit about him. He's not just there to give you advice. You're there to show that you care about what he does. And you're not just going to be a sponge or just sit there and just, absorb it. Okay. So I want you to, we're going to do this at all of our virtual internships. We're always going to learn to go to the website first, and then we're going to do our homework. It doesn't take very long, but we have to do our homework and come to that conversation ready with questions about their recent work. And if you can learn this strategy, it's going to land you a lot of jobs and a lot of opportunities in your life, because most people do not think to do this at any age. And it's going to make you more capable and more mature than even people much, much older than you for opportunities. Okay. All right. So with that said, let me turn off the share. Oh, actually, let me do it this way first. For those of you who have the worksheet, or just, and if you could, VJ, please put question 1 in the chat. All right. And also it's on the worksheet if you have the worksheet, or it's just in the chat in just a minute. It'll say, why is it important to research people or companies and prepare questions before you meet the person or visit the company? I want to give the students just a few seconds to answer that question in their own way. And then I'm going to stop share as we do it. And let's have Hamilton come on back in. Hamilton, can you turn on your video? There you go, and your mic. Awesome. Let's give students another 10, 20 seconds to write down that answer. When you show, let me just put it to you this way, everybody. If you show interest in someone else, it makes them much more likely to take an interest in you. Let me say that again. If you take an interest in somebody else, they are much more likely to take an interest in you. So think about this strategy, not just for virtual internship Q&As, but for job interviews. What if you walked in that room with questions about the company from their blog? Within 20 seconds, they're already halfway to hiring you because they're so impressed that you actually did your homework. Okay. Now, we'll bring back Hamilton. Thank you, Hamilton. And so we had some folks, we did a little bit of a discussion a few minutes before we started, but let's kind of start from scratch, okay? And I want to have you introduce yourself and your company. Just take a few seconds on that, and then I'll ask you a question about how you got the business started. And then while you're talking, we'll look at some of the questions. We're new at this webinar series for internships. Please put your questions in the Q&A button down at the bottom. Okay, I already have a few questions. But please put your questions in the chat, and after a brief convo with Hamilton and me, we'll bring your questions in and we'll ask your questions. And when you write your question, please put your name and your school so that we can share who you are asking the question, okay? So Hamilton, I've known you a long time. We've been friends a while, and I admire your journey. Tell everybody, give us kind of the background on Hamilton Perkins Collection, how it began, and kind of give us the quick timeline up through today.
Yeah, thank you, Danny, for this whole setup. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Welcome.
And yeah, so we started about 4 years ago. I'm the founder of Hamilton Perkins Collection. We make award-winning bags and accessories from recycled materials. We use recycled plastic water bottles, pineapple leaf fiber, billboards, and much more. We've been mentioned in Forbes, Fast Company, The Washington Post, Money Magazine. We've worked on multiple Fortune 500 client projects, including HP, Dow Chemical, Nordstrom, TJ Maxx, and many more. We're headquartered here in Norfolk, Virginia, and started on Kickstarter. So we started with a $10,000 crowdfunding goal. We hit the goal in about 6 days. We shipped about $25,000 in pre-orders, and we took about 5 or 6 months to make that very first production run. We kicked off a series of trunk shows at Bloomingdale's in New York City. We hopped around from the 59th Street location to the Soho location to country clubs to malls, and eventually we figured out that we were going to need more support for our production, and we traveled. We took a trip to Haiti where we were manufacturing some product at the time, got a chance to see the fashion sector there, got really inspired, came back to the States, and hit the ground running with sales. So we started working with boutiques, specialty retail stores. We were able to sell the product into a couple hundred retail locations stateside, and call it 90% of our customer base is stateside, and then another 10% international. And then we caught the retail bug. So we really got inspired by seeing our customers lay out and seeing how they merchandise product and told the story. So we opened our own store here in Norfolk, Virginia. We ran it for about a year. It was a temporary store. We were kind of on a temporary format, and then the pandemic hit. And for us, we figured it would be a lot more safe if we just close the store and just work remote, focus on our corporate sales program, focus on even being able to do things like this. So that kind of brings us up to the current.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's very hard as an entrepreneur to summarize, because every day there's a million tasks, and to put it all into 2 minutes is hard, but you pulled it off. Why don't you take a couple products off your shelf, put them up in front of the camera, let everybody see some of your cool things, and then we have a lot of questions in the Q&A. So we'll get right to the Q&A questions, but show us some of your products first.
Yeah, so I mean, the very first thing about our product is a differentiator is that each product's always unique and different. Because we use recycled materials like plastic water bottles or vinyl signs, no two bags are ever alike. As you can see here, these are the same style. The canvas here is made from recycled plastic water bottles. The pocket that you see here, and I have no idea what's going to be inside of here. Hopefully.
Yeah, show us the inside because every inside is unique too with the billboard material. Look at that. So that is old billboard material inside the backpack. So every inside is unique too. How cool is that? Raise your hand if you think this is cool. Do the kids say dope? Is that still a thing kids say? I think it's pretty dope.
Yeah, so we were
a lot of hands going up.
To come up with the business model where we're able to take something old, something that is normally discarded. We bring that to the market in terms of either on our website or we sell it through retailers. And then we have a corporate sales program where we work with brands, we work with big companies that have a need for a creative outlet, and we make bags for their use as well.
Awesome. Well, we have so many questions lined up in this Q&A. So I'm going to toss it over to VJ. He's been furiously looking through the Q&A. VJ, give us a question and the student who asked it.
Sure. We have a few different questions about kind of what inspired you to start the company. Carolyn from VCU, Janice, a few anonymous folks, but really I think the focus is on kind of what made you want to start your own business.
For sure. Yeah, I think growing up, I was fairly entrepreneurial. I had a locker decoration business in middle school. I cut lawns in the summer. I washed cars. I eventually worked my way into the mall and retail where I sold sneakers and sportswear and eyewear and worked in interior design prior to, kind of going to college. I worked, I studied marketing. And, I really was inspired by the brand, the brands that I was selling, and, kind of that connection point between like commerce and art. And eventually I just started making products that I could sell to friends and family. I've been doing that kind of like low key under the radar. Worked in banking for about 6.5 years. So on the nights and weekends, I would take trips to New York.
Side hustle, right? They call it a side hustle.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. So, side hustle was, take a trip to New York on my, paid time off, go walk, from 42nd Street to, Wall Street, basically, and just like look through all the different, boutiques and look at all the, if at all, look for like anyone making stuff and, discovering the garment district and discovering that there was, actually bag manufacturing happening right in New York. And, just being naive and, kind of bouncing around. Eventually I went back to business school. I got an MBA at William & Mary and was basically making this product for, everything from my classmates to, professors. And eventually, I kind of was in my position. I said, well, everything I'm doing at this point is to move up. I want to, become a CEO one day. I want to have a chief executive leadership role. And, I just mapped out the time of, from an inspiration standpoint,
Awesome.
it wasn't going to be anytime soon where I could really have the impact that I wanted. At the same time, I'm realizing that compounded annual growth rates in the media industry for print was just going up since mid 90s, which, for me, that seemed like, there was probably an opportunity there. There was also more plastic produced in the prior 10 years than there had in the previous 100 years. So that seemed like a problem. There weren't a lot of options. I was faced with a personal decision. Do I want to kind of go in a regular store and just buy like a bag that's, just regular off the shelf bag, as they call it in the industry? And there wasn't anything that spoke to me. So I ended up coming back from that trip, excited to make something new and fresh, and just surveyed our customers and kind of started collecting pre-orders from there.
Awesome. Awesome. This is great stuff. We have so many questions. Let me throw it back to VJ and see another good one that he's found.
Sure. I think a question that's probably on the top of mind for a lot of folks is how has COVID affected kind of sustainable sourcing for your business? And
wow.
Kind of
great. Who asked that question?
That was Juliet Carter.
Yeah.
That's a next level question, Juliet. Very, very nice. Go ahead, Hamilton.
Yeah. When it comes to sustainable sourcing, kind of throughout the pandemic, it's caused us to take extra precaution. It's caused us to add layers and systems that we maybe already had, but we've had to expand on those. So, for example, sanitizing materials prior to production and sanitizing materials again prior to ship. Jumping into the mask business when we were initially a bag business. We've had to close and shut down sort of multiple opportunities for in-person, kind of events. And, we were a company that did 180 live events roughly last year. And we ended up, doing virtually zero. I mean, we did events up to February. The last event we did was, we were at New York City Refashion Week in New York and the Brooklyn Army Terminal. And, it just seemed like, after that, the whole world kind of just stopped. So as far as our, processes, we're still, seeking, talented and, some of the world's best sort of suppliers for whether it be textiles or packaging. We're constantly evaluating processes at our factories. We have had factories have to close. We've had factories have to have, less staff because, depending on the state, they are unable to sort of operate. We have production stateside and overseas. So it makes it for a lot of logistics. We've also bolstered our team a bit, so we did take somewhat of a dip on team and hours, and then we kind of, ramp back up. So, we're back in sort of full swing thinking about Black Friday here coming up shortly.
That's right. Look, life keeps moving, right? You got to just keep up. VJ, how about another question?
Sure. I think it'll kind of come right off of your last comments on team. We had a few folks that were interested, Karen Mitchell and also Ruxana Nazir, actually coming in from Pakistan. They were asking how many people were on your team at the beginning.
Beginning, we had one. That was me.
That's how it starts.
Yeah, I worked the business, basically by myself. I had friends pitch in when they could, and I've been fortunate to, have, everything from family and friends kind of, chip in here. They hear we have something going on and say, hey, you need a hand, I'll come and help out. Or, you need help, lifting 10,000 pounds of billboards in the first year is roughly how many billboards we repurposed for the year. We were able to get, had friends lend me a truck so that I can, do that. Or, if I get a truck on my own, they'll help me load it. So definitely a team effort. We've had, teammates come virtually all over to work with us, working across, multiple states and countries, and, kind of piling it all on to kind of make the best product that we can for the customer.
Awesome. How about one more, VJ?
Sure. We had a number of questions on the materials themselves. So we had some who were interested in the pineapple fiber bags, and really, how did you create those, and how long did that process take, and kind of where do you collect your materials from? And
before you answer that, do you have a pineapple product around you right now? Could you show people one? I don't put you on the spot.
I don't. I can direct you to the site.
That's okay. Just tell us about how that concept came to be.
Yeah, I think just activity. When you're in motion, things happen, opportunities present themselves. Myself, I'm always looking for interesting partnerships. I'm always looking for suppliers that can provide, a unique angle that our customer can appreciate. And I heard of a company and they were already doing the work. But, it took a while for us to kind of forge that relationship between myself, my designer on my team, and we were able to create a partnership with a company out of Europe called Pinatex. So Pinatex is, this amazing company. They get the pineapple leaves, they work with the smallholder farmers. They bring that material back to Europe and process it. It was kind of founded by a PhD, leather executive who has a lot of experience in the industry and kind of particularly came from the leather side of it, I believe. But, over time, developed a sustainable product through a series of grants and stuff like that. So we source the material from them. We purchase it, we pay for it by the linear meter, and then send it to our factories. We also kind of, complete somewhat of the last mile of sourcing with vinyl signs or fabric signs or parachutes. I mean, it can be anything that we have in stock. And then, we kind of create something that's new from a bag and accessory standpoint. So that's how that came about.
Awesome. Just real quick, there was a question I thought it was pretty funny. Students asked, did you design your own suit jacket too?
No, I didn't design this one. This is actually a gift. Fortunately, we have, lots of clients, and I had a client in the apparel business that sent me this as a gift. That's
called trade, right? That's called trade.
Oh, what am I talking about? This is a gift from my wife, actually.
Oh yeah, don't get her.
This is a gift.
This is recorded. That was actually the next thing I was going to say anyway. Somebody had asked, will this be recorded? Yes. We will be sending a recording of this out tomorrow morning, so you can share this with students and teachers. It'll be on our YouTube channel forever, so you can always use it after the fact. But yeah, I know your wife. You don't want to get on her bad side with forgetting that she gave you that
Yeah, there you
that
go.
jacket.
I was thinking about a shirt. This is
Let's do a couple more questions, VJ, and then we're going to do a little wrap up with learning how to send a proper thank you email. So let's do one right now and maybe one more.
Sure. Lori Hummer says that her students are interested in what classes you took in high school, Hamilton, and which ones may have influenced you the most.
Great question.
Yeah, that's a good question. So in high school, I took, I took the regular classes. You know, I won't say I took like a fashion class or a photography class. I think I always wanted to, but I was really more sports focused in high school. I think my curiosities extended beyond sort of the classroom, just personally. Like, I think I found myself, learning by, my locker decoration business being shut down. Like, that was kind of a way of making, what I would do. I'd take magazines, cut the magazine into, like art, like a collage, and then I would kind of sell that as like a, like a decoration service. So like, those were really like, things that like from just like a entrepreneurial spirit that kind of guided me. But, definitely, accounting stands out to me as like a course that I had in class that, or in school that when I was in high school, really, it's very foundational of what we do today. Accounting, and even I'm trying to think of some other ones from high school.
Well, raise your hand, everybody, if you just took note on that. That was a really good little piece of insight. Accounting.
Yeah.
Right. It's not always. I mean, look, marketing classes are great, and it all matters. But accounting, right? You wouldn't have thought he was going to say that, but it's a business, right? We have to learn how to run a business.
And English too. Everything.
English.
Communicating, writing. I mean, that's so important. If I would have known what I know now, I would have doubled down on all this stuff. I would have been, and I, to some extent I was, but like I say, I was more geared towards sports and kind of, extracurricular activities. So, in high school, I think the fact that anyone's on this call, you're well advanced, you're going to do well. You already have your head on straight. Myself, I sort of looked at, I was still figuring out what did I want to do? How did I want to get there? I mean, if you look back in my yearbook, I mean, it says you will work in, fashion in some capacity. You will do that. But I think it took me years of the reps and the time to know like my version of that and how that would actually play out. And, by having a lot of experiences and, just working really hard, I was able to sort of figure out exactly, what I wanted to do. And I still continue to educate myself today, whether it's picking up books or listening to podcasts or, interviewing our customers on our own podcasts.
Yep. Thank you for that. And I'm blown away by the number of questions that we've received. This was such an experimental webinar, and it's been so good. BJ, let's have one more question from the list, and then we're going to do a little bit of a wrap-up activity.
Sure. Carissa asks, Hamilton, what is your favorite product? And if you can't pick one, kind of what are your top three? And lastly, what is something you hope to achieve in the future? Yeah,
so because our products are all unique and different because of the material, I can say that they all are super special. I really, thinking through our very first design, our Earth Bag Premium is 2 bags and 1 backpack duffels. Those are always going to have a, kind of special place in the collection because that's the first product we ever made. We interviewed 1,000 people to get the design criteria.
Wow.
We launched it on Kickstarter with lots of success, and it still continues to be in our top selling suite of product. Our belt bags or our hip bags are really popular right now as we are in the pandemic. Everyone wants to stay hands-free. They're looking for ways to, keep their, whether you have a mask or a glove or, hand sanitizer or whatever, you can keep that kind of close. And then, I'd say our mask business is definitely, taken off. We couldn't have imagined, the shortest sort of window of R&D and sort of pattern, design, pattern making, sample making, production. The amount of things we had to condense in such a short period of time and sort of correlate that to the website, is definitely a huge task. So for that, that's another product that stands out. Long term, you know, I'd say we want to continue to have impact. We want to change the shape and the face of how consumers think about recycling, how businesses view their role in recycling. And that's why, you know, we do our best to educate, whether it's through content or to work with brands and companies and sort of connect the dots with them and the consumer, because to us, you know, we all have our responsibility in this, whether it's just being more thoughtful about what you're doing on a daily basis, or supporting a company that, you know, is taking the extra step. And even if you're in your own lane and you're in a completely different industry, like I want to make sure that like I've done my part and that our team does our part to sort of bring awareness to that.
Awesome. Great stuff. We're gonna kind of learn the whole process of holding a Q&A. I know there's lots of questions. This has been wonderful, but we also want to respect Hamilton's time and your time in your instructional period. So here's what we're gonna do as a last little nugget here, and then you can have the opportunity to practice it with Hamilton, actually, which would be so cool. So I'm gonna share the screen once more. All right. And let's talk about for just a minute about how to send a thank you email after a Q&A. So let's say that Hamilton gave you his time, which he did. Let's say it was one-on-one even. How cool would that be? And he gave you a bunch of great insights and nuggets about how to work hard to grow something from scratch in this case. So let me give you, and we'll remind the teachers in a minute, we provided this sample as a free resource. And I'll tell you how to get it if you missed it in a second. But I want to just briefly go through this message. And here's the most important thing. Thanks again for your time. And then thanks for meeting with me this morning, this afternoon. I enjoyed learning more about your company. And here's the kicker. You're going to share in your email a piece of advice the person gave you to prove you listened. For instance, I like how you suggested I learn more online animation skills during my virtual internship. I will look at Animation X and Acme Animation and see if my internship coordinator can give me access to either software program. Very specific information back in the message. So you're proving to the person you listened, you heard them, you took it to heart, and it makes your thank you message even more meaningful than if you just wrote, thanks so much, that was great. Thanks so much, that was great. I want to teach you to be detail oriented at all times. So you're going to be detail oriented with questions you prepare for them, detail oriented with the thank you email afterwards. All along the way, you look your absolute best. And this same strategy works for actual job interviews and internship interviews. Show the person you appreciate what they said and you can recite it back to them. And then you may want to, whatever the final line might be about a follow-up or an opportunity or a next conversation, whatever it is. But this is the part I really want you to understand. Raise your hand if you understand what I'm saying to you right now, that when you add something special to a message, it goes from here to here. And it makes you unforgettable. Raise your hand if you want to be unforgettable in this world. If you want to be somebody that other people never forget. The way you get there is by focusing on the details. Hamilton will be the first to tell you it's all about the details. You have to live in the details. That's where success happens. So I want you to think about how you can be specific and focused and show lots of evidence that you've done your homework. That's going to make you stand out throughout your life. Okay. Now, and VJ had put it in the chat and I had neglected that question 3. While I'm going to switch back as we wrap up to something for the teachers. For the students, I want you to go to questions 3 and 4. VJ, if you can put question 4 as well in the chat. Question 3 goes back to our first discussion. If you can remember, and now you have to kind of pull back on your memory, what are some of the pages on a company website you need to look at to learn about the company's latest and greatest successes? Give me a quick little list on your worksheet about the pages we talked about. And question 4, what is the biggest key about a thank you email after a conversation? I still have my screen on it right here. Okay, so I want you to fill in questions 3 and 4. And then we're going to do a quick wrap up with the teachers. So let me share my screen once more. So for those of you who missed it at the beginning, just a few things to hit on. We mentioned that we put together this virtual internship guide, a free guide covering so many things we've already talked about and even things we didn't. teaching students how to request Q&As, how to hold the Q&A, how to write a thank you message afterwards, how to even talk about these experiences on your resume or cover letter. And for those of you who don't have this yet as well, we have an email etiquette unit teaching students how to write effective emails. And they can even earn a digital badge once they complete that. So for those of you who missed it at the beginning, these are free resources for you and your students. So for the teachers here who missed it the first time, all you have to do is type the word interested in the chat, excuse me, and your email address. Those of you who are new to our community, we like to have a brief phone call in the coming days to pass along the resources, help you make sense of it, understand your own program better, your class better. So if you missed it on the front end, please request it now. And we will be sure to be in touch with you so we can pass it along. Excuse me. Got a tickle in my throat. I'll give you a second to do that. So those of you who wrote interested, please include your email address as well, so we can reach out. We will send you a 5-minute brief Google Calendar conversation in the coming days. If the time doesn't work for you, just respond back and suggest another time. But it's so important that we actually have real conversations with you. And it's not just one-sided where you're just listening. We want to get to know you. We want to understand what you're doing. So thank you for those who commented with interested. Also, if you missed it, and VJ, feel free to share in the chat, we have a link to a flyer for this webinar on October 22nd, which is 2 weeks from today. And there's actually a link to register in that flyer, so you could actually register now, become one of the first to claim a seat, because we had a lot of people today. We might start running out of room. So we're going to talk to Steve Schiff to explore the world of digital marketing. He's a digital content editor for magazines that include Oprah, Elle, Cosmo, Delish, Men's Health, Prevention, Southern Living, all kinds of magazines. He does really cool digital projects for those major magazines. He works and lives in Manhattan. He's going to tell us all about it. So teachers, please come back and see us on the 22nd. Tell more teachers. If we need to make the room bigger, we'll make it bigger. Because I got to say, out of all the webinars we've done, and we've done a lot, this is our biggest crowd and that have attended live. So I think there's a lot of traction here. So the flyer, Nicholas asked, if you scroll up a little bit, or maybe post it one more time, VJ, post the flyer one more time. There it is. Click that link right there. It'll take you to the flyer. You can share that throughout the school and students can click the link and you can register too. All right. And as just one more reminder that we're going to be passing out a certificate of completion for attending today to all the teachers and students who are here live. So look for that in the teacher's email or in your email if you're here as a student logged in, and we'll send that out shortly, probably tomorrow morning. And you can use that any which way you choose. Look at that. We covered, boy, did we do a lot today or what? Let me bring Hamilton back in one last time. You can bring your camera back on. We did a lot in 45 minutes. And I hope you learned a lot too. I want to say a special thank you to Hamilton. Thank you to VJ for being great on the ones and twos, as they say, on the controls. And I think students just really enjoyed learning about you. Hamilton, I do want to, some teachers were asking about how can students get involved? Do you need some street team students? Do you need some interns in California? Like, what are you, if people want to help you promote what you're doing, get that real experience, what's available to them right now?
Yeah, no, we appreciate it. Our website's always open. It's hamiltonperkins.com. Feel free to check us out there. You know, right now we're, we have to double down on products and we got to double down on Black Friday. So, we're kind of heads down on that and thinking about Q1, Q2 of 21. But, always glad to, do what I can do to help or be a sounding board. Be great, do what you can do, take something, look for what you're doing already. Look, find one thing, something like this, find one piece and what can you apply? I've already listened and I've already gone back to some things that I can do just by listening to any. So I think it's just, continuing that cycle and, and just spreading the positivity.
Awesome. I want to end on a little pop quiz. I want to see who was paying attention because it underscores so much how to talk about yourself and your successes. Who remembers earlier Hamilton talked about doing a Kickstarter fundraiser? And how many days did it take him to reach his goal? Who remembers the number he said? Look at that. Boom. Now, why is it important that he said 6? Why is it important that you know that? Do you think 6 is impressive? Raise your hand if you think 6 is impressive. 6 days to hit your fundraising goal. I think it's impressive. But what if he said, oh yeah, we reached our goal real fast? If he said real fast, what would you have thought? Would you have thought 6? Or would you have thought like 30? Right? If he said we've reached our goal really fast, what number would you have thought? Yep. Brianna said 30. So what I want you to understand, and we'll talk about this throughout these webinars, you have to own your numbers. You need to own your successes, own your stats. Talk about accounting, right? Do your own accounting. And when you do a fundraiser in 6 days, you tell the world it's 6 days. You don't say it was quick. You say 6. And I want you to think about, as we close here, I want you to think about your own numbers. What numbers do you own? How much money have you raised for projects? How many people came to an event you put on? How many hours did you put in training for volleyball season? What numbers do you have? That's how you talk about yourself. And those are the types, and the fact that you remember he said 6 says it all, because we never forget that type of information. Brianna says you have to be clear when you speak like this. That's right. We want you to be clear. So let's summarize. You're clear when you're preparing your questions. You're clear when you're writing your thank you note. You're clear on your own successes. And if you can do that in high school, college, and beyond, you can do anything. The world will open to you. Doors will open to you if you know how to talk about yourself and how to talk to others. So we're going to continue learning these lessons throughout the fall. I want to thank all the teachers and students who were here today. This was awesome, really awesome. Thank you, Hamilton. Thank you, VJ. We'll be in touch shortly with follow-up conversations and the recording and the certificates and all that good stuff. So hang tight. We'll be in touch with you. And thank you all for being here. Stay safe and healthy wherever you are. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time.